During these times, being stuck in the house, like everybody is, I found it's a good time to do some reading. Not usually a big reader, but and mostly I probably don't read during the day. I read more in bed at night. But one of my favorite authors is Patrick McManus. And I'm not a fisherman or a hunter. I've done a little camping, but that's all. And Patrick McManus writes about hunting, fishing, camping, both as an adult and when he was a kid. Let me just read a little bit of Patrick McManus for you. You might get a kick out of it. He's talking about live bait, the difference between fishermen that use live bait and fishermen that don't. And I'm just going to pick up in the middle here, and here's what he says. My favorite method of preserving live bait is to store it in the refrigerator until it's ready for use. There are two schools of thought on the proper execution of this procedure. Some hold it better to tell your wife first, and others claim it's better to let her make the discovery for herself. I'm a member of the latter group, and have been ever since my wife came across a jar of my helegrammites while she was sorting through the refrigerator in search of some mayonnaise. The incident would probably have passed without any lingering ill effects had she not at the time been entertaining her church bridge club. It is difficult to describe the resulting commotion with any accuracy, but I learned later that cards from our bridge deck were found as far away as 3 blocks, and one of the olive and avocado sandwiches served at the party turned up in a ladies' restroom halfway across town. Our dog was asleep on the front sidewalk when the ladies left, and it was weeks before we could get all the dents out of him left by their high heels. I have on occasion attempted to lay in a supply of worms during the spring months. I'll stash a couple of hundred of them in a wash tub with dirt and feed them coffee grounds. The reason I feed them coffee grounds is that numerous people have told me that that is what worms like to eat. Whether they do or not, I'm not sure. In any case, I have yet to find a single worm when I dump out the tub later in the summer. I'm beginning to suspect that worms can't stand coffee grounds, or maybe coffee grounds like worms. The beginning angler is often of the impression that there are only 3 kinds of worms: small, medium, and large. Actually, the size of the worm makes little difference. Temperament and character are everything. These 2 characteristics seem to be determined primarily by environment. For example, I've never found a worm raised in a manure pile who could earn his keep as fishing bait. Manure pile worms are soft and pale and accustomed to living easy. To a worm, a manure pile is a suite at the Ritz, a villa on the Riviera. He never has to worry about where his next meal is coming from. If he knew, he would probably worry, but he doesn't know. Manure pile worms don't have any street savvy. Now you dig up a worm out of a garden, an individual who's been through a couple of rototillings, and that worm has been around. He's going to go out and put up a good fight. Nothing builds character in a worm like a good rototilling. Some time ago, a sporting goods company sent me a package of freeze-dried worms. At first I thought it was some kind of a veiled threat, but then I found a note saying that if I soaked the worms in water, they would reconstitute into fishing bait. I stuck the package in my backpack with my other freeze-drieds, and a couple of nights later at a mountain lake, took it out and soaked the contents in some water. It turned out to be macaroni and cheese sauce. My friend Rhett Sweeney said, "I thought we ate macaroni and cheese sauce last night." The freeze-dried worms never did turn up. The most troublesome of all live bait is grasshopper. By the time you've caught enough of them, you're usually too tired to go fishing. Furthermore, grasshoppers are not content to simply sit around in a bottle waiting to to be fed to some fish. Once a worm is in the can, he pretty well knows his fate and is sealed and will lie back and take it easy until his number comes up. Not so with a grasshopper. They are no sooner in the bottle than they're plotting their escape. Every time the lid is lifted to insert a new inmate, half a dozen of the critters will make a break for it. While I was still a young boy, I learned that the only way to foil their escape was to shake the bottle vigorously and then slip the new grasshopper in while the other ones were still dazed. What apparently happens is that the grasshopper get high from the shaking and like it so much that after a while you can hardly chase them out of the bottle with a stick. They just lie on their back smiling. Of course, this is confusing to the new grasshopper who thinks he has been incarcerated with a bunch of degenerate insects who keep calling out, "Come on, man, give us another shake." To my mind, the best live bait is the helgramite, an insect that resides on stream beds and builds little cocoons for itself out of pebbles. Fish cannot resist them, in their shells or out. They are the salted peanuts of baits. Not long ago, I was fishing a stream in Idaho and hadn't had a nibble all day. Then I discovered a nice patch of helgramites, and within a half hour had nearly filled my limit with plump cutthroat. There were a dozen or so anglers on the stream, and they were so astonished at my success that they could not help express their awe by jovially threatening to slash my waders the next time I was in deep water. Finally, after I creeled my final catch, a couple of them came over and demanded to know what I was using. "These," I said. "Geez, those are ugly looking things," one of them said. "I almost hate to touch them." "Trout love them," I said. "Here, take a couple of mine, just try them out." I thought it was the very least I could do. As I was climbing into my car, I heard one of the fishermen yell, "What was he using? These nasty looking things?" The first fellow yelled back, "Big red, white, and blue flies." I felt a little bad about the deception. On the other hand, you could never tell. There could be such a thing as a patriotic fish. Anyway, that's Patrick McManus. If you have a Kindle, just go to the Kindle store and type in Patrick McManus. You'll find him. I hope you read one or two. You probably get a kick out of them.